Building your watercolor palette can feel like stepping into a candy store. There's so many colors and so much potential. In this video, I will share 10 of my tried and true favorites, perfect for inspiring your watercolor creations. And to showcase these pigments, I've created this cozy, colorful composition filled with ornaments, birds, and festive objects. This way you can see how the colors interact in the finished piece rather than just relying on swatches. And many of these have been staples in my palette for over a decade, while others are exciting new discoveries, including one that was released just a few months ago and immediately stole my heart. I'll even share one pigment that's not a traditional watercolor, but is an amazing addition to holiday compositions like this one. And if you like to dive deeper, I will be uploading a real-time recording of this painting process, along with a black and white outline on my Patreon channel. It's perfect if you want to paint along or experiment with your own colors. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. You make this channel possible. So let's explore 10 of my favorite watercolor pigments this year. Remember, these are just suggestions to ignite your creativity. There's no such thing as a perfect watercolor palette, so choose colors that resonate with your style and the stories you want to tell through your art. I'm going to start with a pair of complementary colors, Phthalo green and carmine red. I will use them to paint the poinsettia flowers in my wreath, blending them together, and you can see how seamlessly they melt on paper and how vibrant they both look. Phthalo greens come in two varieties, blue shade and yellow shade, and you can find them in any brand. They're extremely vibrant and staining, so if you're in a mood for very striking greenery, especially tropical leaves or maybe this kind of holiday greenery, I would definitely give them a try. Mine is from Winsor & Newton and it's a blue shade. Phthalos don't granulate, meaning they give you no texture, so the results you get on paper are very clear and bright, mixing very well with anything else I add, including my carmine red. I generally love mixing phthalo green and carmine directly on paper the way you see it here, but as I mentioned, they're complementary, meaning you will find them on the opposite sides of the color spectrum. So if you mix them thoroughly on the palette instead of paper, you will arrive at a range of very beautiful neutral colors that you can use for shadows. And to add some visual interest, I'm also dropping bits of purple and yellow into my base, red and green, and you can see how well they both absorb additional pigments that I charge, giving me these lovely blends. Notice how flexible the carmine red is. It's giving a wide range of values from light pink when I fully dilute it with water to vivid dark red when I use less water and more pigment. I highly recommend it, especially if you're into botanical art. This year I've painted a variety of flowers using this specific color, and I have to say it's the juiciest, most vibrant medium red I've ever tried. You can easily imagine how well it would work for roses or any other red flower you have in mind. I will also use the phthalo green on my holly leaves later on, and you can add some hooker's green or pearlin green into it just to add some visual interest and some variation in hues. And when the first layer is dry, I will come back to my poinsettias and add a subtle glaze of color on top just to accentuate the dark areas where the leaves and petals are overlapping. But overall, I find phthalo green and carmine are vibrant enough even with just one layer. Now, you might be looking for something a lot more natural when it comes to your greens, something maybe with less intensity, especially if you love landscapes. So don't worry, I have 2 more excellent green recommendations coming up. But first I wanted to show you 2 pigments from another color family, yellow ochre and burnt sienna. If you are a landscape painter or if you love painting portraits, these will likely become staples on your palette, but for this particular composition, I will be using them to paint gold ornaments, a pine cone, and maybe some dry lotus flowers. Ochres and siennas come from a family of colors called earth pigments. These typically include a range of muted, warm, golden, and reddish colors that often possess granulating properties. What this means is they give you that subtle texture, enhancing the natural feel of your landscapes or any organic subjects like animals and plants. Mine are from Winsor & Newton, but you will find these practically in any brand. To imitate gold, I started with ochre and I follow with darker reddish burnt sienna. You can try this ochre as a subtle underpainting on brown animal fur or as a base pigment for your color mixtures instead of a typical yellow. Both of these colors are quite useful for mixing a variety of skin tones from light to dark, and you may have seen a portrait tutorial I did last year when I used these colors to mix up the base and the shadows on the skin. And of course, once everything is dry, we need to add some shadows. My recommendation is to go with some sort of transparent violet or purple and just glaze it on top of your gold layers. And if you want to learn more about the properties of different color families, like earth pigments, phthalos, or quinacridons, to help you make better choices when you build your color palette, I have an entire chapter in my new book where I go really in depth to describe everything you need to know about watercolor pigments and how they work depending on which family of colors you use. I will leave a link to the book in the video description below. Now let's take a step back so I can show you my favorite blue. I've been using this one for years. It's called Phthalo Blue Green Shade. There's also a red shade variation, and because it's a phthalo pigment, just like the green I showed you in the beginning, you can expect a really vibrant look, especially when you use saturated color, so less water and more pigment on your brush. I use this in practically every painting I make. For these holiday ornaments, I'm applying it around the shape and then lifting the highlights with a clean damp brush. If you want to learn more about the lifting technique for watercolor, I have an entire detailed tutorial explaining this specific way using another holiday ornament, and I posted it last week, so make sure to check it out. And here I'm adding a little bit of violet using wet on wet method just to capture some reflections from surrounding objects. Notice how well my phthalo blue absorbs and mixes with this new color, just like the green phthalo that I showed you a minute ago. Some other use cases for this blue color include botanical art. One of my most popular tutorials includes blue orchids, where this pigment really shines. And I also often use it as an underpainting for animal and human eyes. Next, I wanted to return to reds because, well, it's my favorite color group, and I thought at this point in my life I've tested every watercolor red under the sun, but then Core Watercolors from Golden came out with a new range, and one pigment really stood out for me. I've been using it non-stop for the last 2 months, and it's called Scarlet. So this is a very vibrant red, but it has some strong orange undertones, very different from the cooler carmine we used on poinsettias. It's much closer to yellow if you consider the color spectrum, and I thought it would be a perfect base color for the berries and also my red cardinals. As I'm painting the birds, you can see that the pigment is semi-transparent, meaning it's a bit creamier and gives you more coverage compared to transparent carmine, and it has very strong orange undertones, which I will enhance even further by adding some yellow directly into my wet layer. It's not granulating, so it will leave no texture, and it's very light fast, meaning it won't fade over time. As you can see, it mixes very well with any other colors you choose to add, so I've layered some carmine red, some burnt orange for the darker brown feathers, and some indigo on the tips and around the eye. You can find the Scarlet pigment in other brands. They may call it French vermilion. And to be 100% sure if you want to get this particular shade, simply look for pigment number PR242. So regardless of what the brand calls it, the pigment number for your watercolors is the most important thing, and it's consistent across all different product ranges. So you can be sure to find PR242 no matter where you shop for your watercolors. And I should note that Core as a brand in general offers much more vibrant and fast-flowing variations of any pigment, and that's because they use Aquazole, which is a modern binder, different from what other traditional watercolor brands use. So if you are into this extra vibrant and vivid style, I would definitely try Core watercolors. They will still mix very well with other colors from other brands that you might have on your palette. You might have noticed the dark feathers on the birds' heads and assumed that I used black, but here's the thing, I never use pure black straight from the tube. Instead, I used indigo, which is a very dark blue. My indigo from Daniel Smith is a convenience mix that does contain some black pigment, but it gives a much more natural result compared to pure blacks. If you've seen any of my tutorials, you'll know why I avoid pure black. It can make colors look muddy. Indigo, on the other hand, allows for richer, more harmonious tones. For example, while carefully painting the dark feathers, if I accidentally dissolve some of my red, the indigo will give me a soft bluish shadow rather than an unpleasant muddy mix. It's a staple on my palette and my go-to substitute for blacks, especially when painting natural subjects. I highly recommend giving it a try. Now, as promised, let's talk about a couple of amazing greens that I think you will love, particularly if you enjoy painting leaves, landscapes, or anything that requires muted and natural greenery. The first pigment I want to highlight is aqua green, one you've likely seen me use often over the years. The second is a bit more niche, called Perlin green, which has a touch of black. Let me show you how they work and why they're incredibly versatile. So aqua green, the bluish one, currently available in the Winsor & Newton range, is a phthalo-based pigment, but much more subdued than typical phthalo greens. It has strong blue undertones, making it perfect for painting pine needles, lush foliage, or any type of greenery. It's slightly granulating, although you can barely see it. It's transparent, super easy to mix. For instance, adding yellow creates a warmer version of this green, while mixing it with blues and purples will give you a variety of very harmonious green hues. For the past maybe 5 years, aqua green has been my go-to for botanical compositions. It's my starting point for painting leaves and stems because of its natural organic appearance. It also allows for buildable coverage. You can layer it to deepen and saturate the color without overwhelming your composition. One of the standout qualities of this color is that it complements rather than competes with surrounding colors, making it ideal for backgrounds that frame vibrant flowers or, as you can see here, Christmas ornaments. And it's not just limited to greenery though. Aqua green works beautifully for seascapes and virtually any type of water-inspired paintings. Its versatility is why it's a permanent fixture on my palette. The second pigment I'm using here is Perlin green, a much darker green that contains black. This gives it a deep, rich quality, perfect for painting forest scenes, moody landscapes, or any subject that calls for darker and more dramatic greens. Its slightly muddy tones work beautifully for creating depth and shadow in natural compositions. Finally, the bonus pigment I promised isn't watercolor at all. It's white gouache. While white isn't a typical component of traditional watercolor, you generally avoid mixing it with regular pigments to preserve transparency, but it's fantastic as an accent for decorative elements. I prefer gouache over white watercolor because it's creamier, more opaque, and super fun to use for creating highlights, snow accents, and tiny decorative details. Here I've added little snow-like dots using white gouache and white pencil. It's a great technique for holiday ornaments or any festive designs. And I hope you enjoyed this demo featuring some of my favorite pigments and got inspired to try something new. Leave a comment below and share with everyone which colors you've been loving this year. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're looking for more inspiration, check out my other video featuring colorful holiday ornaments. I will see you soon with more watercolor magic.